Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about what I like to call octave signposts. These are places or shapes you can use to access octaves. An octave, very simply, is just the same note higher. Those were all A's, but each one was a register higher. Octaves are a really important musical concept, and on the guitar, we can use octaves to navigate the fretboard better and extend our scale knowledge, our chord knowledge, our improvisational skills, all sorts of things. And we're going to start off right away with just some shapes here, or some basics in terms of where to find octaves. The easiest place to find an octave always on the same string is the 12th fret. That's why there are two dots here. That's an open E, E octave, open A octave, and so on. So in a real sense, the fretboard resets right here. So anything you play down here, say a little lick like this, 02320, can be played up here, 12, 14, 15, 14. Just add 12 to each note. And that works on any string. That's the first octave I learned, basically, right here on the 12th fret. The second octave I learned was, at least on the bottom four strings, it works this way. Things change a little bit when you get to the B string right here. Everything changes a little bit on the B string because of the way it's tuned. Every string is tuned to perfect fourth except for the B string from the string before. So Do, Re, Mi, Fa is the same note on the next string. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, next note there. That's the next open string. But just Do, Re, Mi on the G string gets you to the B string's pitch. That's a major third there, just walking up the major scale. From the B string to the E string, it's the same. Do, Re, Mi, Fa. That gets you the same note there. But those are just unisons. How do we get octaves here? Well, I guess, again, just on the bottom four strings until you get to the B string. Grab a note, say the 5th fret of the E string, that's an A. Skip a string and go up 2 frets. So that will be 5 on the A string and then 7 on the D string. That's an octave shape right there, and that also can be moved around. A lot of songs use this octave shape, and when you form the shape here, you can mute the string in between like that and play kind of like a solo-y sounding thing. That works on the low string. It also works on the A string as well. So say I'm playing a D on the 5th fret of the A string right here. If I skip a string and go to the G string up to the 7th fret, that is also a D. Again, this could be moved around. I remember playing this song in high school. By Lit. Now, when you have to implicate the B string, you have to accommodate the fact that the distance between the G and the B string is a little smaller. So instead of the skipping a string and going up 2 frets, you have to skip a string and go up 3 frets. So say I play a G here on the 5th fret of the D string. I skip the G string and go to the B string. I can't just play the 7th fret. That'll get me that that lovely major 7th sound. I want the octave. That's going to be on the 8th fret. So 5th fret of the D string, 8th fret of the B string. Those are both Gs. You know, this is a G. I can use that little signpost right here to grab a G right there. You have to also make an accommodation when you're going from the G to the E string. So say I play a C right here. I'm staying on the 5th fret all the way across these strings, by the way. 5th fret right here on the G string. If I skip a string and go up 3 frets, because again, I'm crossing the B string, I get another C. So 5th fret of G, 8th fret of high E are both Cs. So that's the second octave shape. Remember the first one was just 12th fret of each string. The next one was skip a string, go up 2 frets, unless you're crossing the B string. Then you skip a string and go up 3. Those are all octaves of the first note. The next octave shape is one that eluded me for a long time, although it was tucked right here in a C major chord. So if you look in the C major chord, if you name the notes, you have C, E, G. Of course, that's the open G string. Then you have C again on the B string. Then you have E again. So there is, tucked in here, an octave shape. So the 3rd fret of the A string right here and the 1st fret of the B string. So all open chord shapes can be moved around if you put a proper bar in front of them, or if you're just moving individual notes, not worrying about the open strings, you can just move a couple of notes and the relationship will be maintained. So if this is an octave relationship, 3 and 1, skipping 2 strings in between from the A to the B string, this can be moved around. C, C, go up a full step, 2 frets. D and D, go up another full step. E and E. So this is another shape you have right here. From the A to the B string, skipping 2 strings in between, going back 2 frets. So 7th fret of the E, 5th fret of the B. Excuse me, 7th fret of the A, 5th fret of the B. Those are both E's. Let's say I want to do it with a G. Way up here on the 10th fret of the A string is a G. I want to find another G, skip 2 strings, go back 2 frets to the 8th fret of the B string. That's also a G. We're really just moving this shape tucked in here around and exploiting the fact that relationships on the guitar, all these shapes are movable. All right. So again, just to review, we have this one, 12th fret of every string. This one where you skip a string and go up 2, except for the B string stuff, go up 3. And we have this one where you, on the A string to the B string, you go skip 2 strings and go back 2 frets. Now, what is the use of octave signposts? Well, there are a bunch of uses. The first use is to take a scale shape and be able to move it up an octave and extend your soloing, your improvisation, your songwriting range here with just one scale. So if I'm playing a G major scale, this is one I play all the time on my channel. G major is a really nice guitar-friendly shape. But let's just stay within one octave, using the octave concept again. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Right away, right there, you have that relationship we've seen already where you skip a string and go up 2 frets. Tucked right in there within that scale shape. You're going to see that these octave signposts just show up within scale shapes. So that's the octave right there. I can, now that I know that this is another G right here, I can use the same shape. Of course, when I cross the B string, I have to make a small adjustment and go up 1 fret. So whereas we had this shape here, I have the same shape here, but I have to accommodate that B string. And if I really want to, although I'm going to run out of strings, I have that octave here as well, going from the 5th fret of the D to the 8th fret of the B. I have this one again. It starts off the same. Of course, I run out of strings there, but the shape starts off the same. If I just focus on those notes, I can play them in 3 different places now. Almost messed that up there. There you go. So that extends your solo range diagonally across the neck, which a lot of people are always struggling to do. A lot of my students and a lot of guitar players in general say, how do I get out of the box? Well, one way to get out of a box is to just go up an octave and apply the same shape, making the proper accommodation for the B string. So extending your scale shapes is one awesome use of octaves. But also, you can find a chord surrounding a note wherever you find that note. So let's stick with G here. Obviously, you have the open chord, the open G, starting with this G right here. Right? But as we've seen, you also have a G right here, and there is in fact a chord right here as well. 5, 4, 3 starting on the D string comes from this chord. Wherever there is a note, there is a chord. G, G. We can go up another octave from this 5th fret of the D string, skip a string, go up 3 frets because it's the B string, right? That's the 8th fret of the B string. There is a G major chord surrounding this note as well. It's right here. It ends up being 7, 8, 7. This D major shape brought all the way up here. Now, using the octaves doesn't just work with major scales, it works with any scale. So let's take a pentatonic minor scale, guitar player's favorite scale, position 1. A minor pentatonic. You have these octaves tucked right in here. So remember, a pentatonic scale is just 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next note should be your octave. And in fact, it is, right? So A right here, 5th fret of the low E string, skip a string, 7th fret of the D string, another octave. That means if you start right here and go up another 5 notes, you'll have the same notes an octave higher. So, right, and then this one as well. In fact, there's this sort of like zigzag pattern here tucked inside this scale. Or just this octave relationship is a zigzag pattern. These signposts right here. Low E string, 5th fret, 7th fret of the D string, and then 5th fret on the high E. That actually points up a 4th octave shape that I haven't talked about yet. Remember I talked about the A string to the B string? That one right there. So 7th fret on the A string is an E, and then 5th fret on the B string is also an E. Well, you can take this shape and move it up 1 string set. So you have 7 on the D and 5 on the high E. You have another octave shape. So this zigzag pattern right here. And that's useful because if you know one little lick you can play with one of those octaves, something like that, then if you go to the next octave, you can do it there as well. Now you're going outside the box there, but you're still applying sort of the same shape. And then 3 different places to play that. And of course with chords, you can do minor chords, not just major chords. Wherever there's a note, there's a major, a minor, a diminished, an augmented, all the chords you want to find. That's an A minor chord right there. That is a bar chord based off of the E minor shape. Just brought all the way up here, and then you bar over the rest of the notes. By the way, if you want to know how to sort of the physical formula for getting a bar chord, just make sure you free up your first finger somehow. Bring the rest of that shape up, and then use your first finger to bar. And this isn't a lesson on bar chords, but that's just a quick and dirty way to find it. That shape should look familiar. It's like I put a capo right here and then play the regular old E minor right here. But this is an A minor because I went up perfect 4th. So that is a minor chord right there, starting on that first note. I can also play one starting on this note, just a smaller little triad. This one's actually also tucked into this chord. This chord actually contains several triads. So you have 7, 5, 5, this little moonwalk shape where you flatten your first finger down there and you put your ring finger here. So ring finger on the 7th fret of the D string. Your first finger is on the 5th fret of the G and the B string. That's an A minor. Then as I said, you also have an A right there on the 5th fret of the high E. Well, here's another shape. Right there. 5, 5, 5, a pretty easy shape. Incidentally, also contained in this A minor bar chord shape. It's an E minor shape but played in A minor and brought all the way up here. So you have this big shape starting on that low string. You have this little shape, 7, 5, 5 starting on D, and you have this shape, 5, 5, 5 starting on the G string. Now again, this isn't a lesson on triads, knowing where to find all these shapes, but the point is, wherever there is a note, there is a chord, whether it's minor, major, or something else. Whether it's minor, major, or something else. Minor, major, or something else. The other notes are going to be in the neighborhood somewhere. Whether it's within one octave, it's a closed voice, or whether it's an open voiced chord triad, where it's spread voice, where it's across multiple octaves. You can always find the notes somewhere, wherever you have that root note. We could also make our way outside this shape by grabbing this octave right here in the shape and using our up 3 frets across the B string shape. Skip a string, go up 3 frets. There's also an A minor right here. Just like there was an A major up here, there's also an A minor. Just that one note difference, right? The 3rd. By the way, it's the same difference between this chord right here, this D and this D minor look very different because of the way you have to move your fingers, but in reality, only one note's changing. 0, 2, 3, 2, and then 0, 2, 3, 1. That one note that changes is the third. That's what determines whether it's major or minor. And if you bring the shape up, the same effect can happen. So if that's a D, just these three notes, leaving the open string behind. That's a D sharp. This is an E. And F, remember in the musical alphabet, E goes right to F. F sharp, G, G sharp. Finally, we have here on 9, 10, 9, same shape, that's an A. If that's an A, then that's an A minor. On the guitar, when you learn one thing, you should really be learning 5 things in a way, if you think about it. Everything applies to everything else, especially if you know your open chord shapes and some of the relationships of the notes between them. You can move those around and exploit those, and it should open up other avenues. Really, when you learn something on the guitar, if you have a good teacher or if you're focusing really carefully on what you're doing, learning one thing should answer 3 questions and raise another question. It shouldn't raise more questions than answers. I feel like that would be bad learning. I feel like that wouldn't be discovery. But it should answer several things and then raise another question, which then answering will answer several other things and then raise another question. There's always another question and there's always more answers. And the more you learn, the more connections that are made. And the more you understand some of the other stuff that you learned. It's all really connected in music. All right, so just to review, we have a bunch of octave relationships here. Open string to the 12th fret on every string. Grab a fretted note, skip a string, go up 2 frets. If you're crossing the B string or if you're on the B string, or if you land on the B string, you have to go up 3 frets. Skip a string, up 3 frets. Okay, you have another octave relationship. If you grab a note on the A string, skip 2 strings and go back 2 frets. So 7 on E, 5 on B, 7 on A, 9 on A, 7 on B. You have another one we discovered halfway through here where you could grab a note on the D string. Again, skip 2 strings, go back 2 frets. So 7 on D and 5 on E. 9 on D and 7 on E. Those are all octaves as well. So hopefully that helps you navigate the fretboard a little bit better. This also helps you with your note knowledge, because if you know a note somewhere and you know these shapes, you know a note in several places, in fact, and across several octaves. As I said, it helps you with your scale knowledge. You can restart the scale on the octave using the same shape, as long as you accommodate that B string whenever you cross it, having to go up an extra fret. And it helps you with your chord knowledge, because if you have a root note somewhere, then around that are going to be the other notes you need for a major, minor, diminished, seventh, whatever else you need. So it really expands your knowledge of the fretboard.